Hey sports fans, Janine here with the amazing Pat Woodcock. Welcome to the series that I'm starting called Transitioning to Life After Sports. Now, most of us have either been an athlete ourselves or we definitely have a family member that has been an athlete at a higher level. When the sport stops, whether it's by choice, retirement, or unforeseen circumstances, the transition can be very difficult for many. So today, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Pat Woodcock. I have an amazing rap sheet here of all his accomplishments. I have posted it in the bio, but he's a strength, speed, and conditioning coach, a personal trainer, nutrition supplement coach, and speaker. He's coached professional athletes in football, basketball, lacrosse, soccer, won a Grey Cup championship, and as the head strength coordinator of the CFL's Ottawa RedBlacks, and is a multi-year nominee at Ottawa's top personal trainer. This guy's rap sheet is phenomenal. He has a lot of accomplishments, but today it's about him, so I'm going to go on, read his profile that I've posted in the bio, and follow him on social media. His stuff is so funny, but so informative, and it's very realistic for you to follow. So, welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Happy to have you here.
Yeah.
So, clearly, the topic is transitioning to life after sports.
Yeah.
Tell me about your journey. Tell us about your journey.
Yeah, so I think for me, so I played professionally for 8 years, and I think when my career ended, I didn't really feel like I was missing something. So I always took that to mean I was ready to be done. 8 years is kind of a long time for professional football. So, I had in my head that I wanted to play for 10 years, but it felt like it was going to be forced if I really went after those last 2 years. I was able to, this was something that I wanted to do as I played my last couple years. So I was able to kind of start the transition into doing this, and obviously I had a very supportive family and all those kind of things that really made the transition fairly simple. Not to say that there weren't struggles, certainly to changing obviously the way you structure your entire life. But for me, it was relatively seamless. And I think a big part of why I went this way is because it still feeds into that athlete life a little bit.
And where are we? Tell them where we are.
Yeah, so this is a training facility out in Canada, the Elite Performance Academy. I started this shortly after I finished playing with the goal of training athletes and helping them to achieve some of the same things that I did and kind of follow their goals athletically.
Yeah, awesome. And something that I'm very curious about, when you were playing your very impressive career, did you take steps, like when you were a first athlete, did you ever think about life after sports, or was it just like, this is going to be my life forever?
Yeah, no, I think, certainly as you get a little bit older and you're playing, you get the, I got to start building a business or having an idea for when I finish or what I'm going to do with this. And so for me, it was using the knowledge that I had gained as an athlete, having great coaches and great trainers and all that kind of stuff to be able to do something like this and be able to share that knowledge with the next generation of athletes. So it was never, I would say, a hard plan, but it was kind of like in the back of my head, I was like, yeah, this is something that I think would be a good idea.
And you are a father of 4
yes.
beautiful children and an amazing wife who makes me laugh as well. You guys have a great sense of humor. I love following you guys on social media. What was that like? You had one child before you retired, correct?
Yes.
And I'm sure for your wife, that was quite the transition. When you're in those type of sports, what's that like for the home life?
We were lucky in the sense that we were able to have her travel with me. So when I played out west, she came with me. When I was back in the east, but not in Ottawa, she was able to come with me, and my daughter came with us as well. So we were lucky in the sense that we were able to stay together through the season, obviously through the off season. So that certainly makes it a lot easier in terms of not being separated and all that kind of stuff. But it's pro sports is such a domain, like everything revolves around that, right? What vacations you're going to take and whose parties you're going to go to and all that kind of stuff is dependent on where you are in the season and when you got to train and when you got practice and all that stuff. So it's never easy. Like pro sports is not an easy life, but it was certainly made easier by the fact that we were able to stay together when we were playing in different cities.
And when did you start thinking, this is time for me to move on and do that next chapter of my life?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly wasn't my idea. I think for all of us, we, in our back of our heads, we're like, well, I'd like to play forever. But at the end of my last contract, I didn't have, they didn't want to renew. I didn't really want to be there either. I had a couple other, offers or guys that were teams that were interested. They weren't high on my list either. I didn't want to move out west again, that kind of stuff. So I figured I would wait a little bit. Somebody would get hurt and they'd give me a call and I'd come and fill in. It didn't happen. So once we kind of got through halfway through that season that I wasn't playing, it was kind of like, you know what, I'm not really missing it. I'm on to other things. I feel great about being at home. So I think I'm done.
And did you have some athletes or teammates that you recognized, like they either stopped because of injury or unforeseen circumstances, and you really saw, like, it's quite an emotional shift for everyone. But what's really nice about Pat is it's not all turmoil when you leave sports. It's not always going to be a rocky transition, but there is an identity crisis. Did you find there was a space where you were like, shoot, if I'm not playing, like it's such a structured sports, and I played in the National Women's Hockey League and Division I at University of New Hampshire, but we have so much structure, and then you don't. Did that affect you at all?
Yes, for sure. I mean, I think there's two sides to that. So number one, having that structure and kind of knowing exactly, like every Monday you know what kind of practice you have. Every Tuesday you know, every Friday's this, and Saturday's a game and whatever. So not having that can be a battle at times in terms of trying to, certainly if you're trying to build a business or do something else, like you've got to have that structure in order to make that happen. But also for me, I found it to be a negative because when I played on some teams that weren't that good. So, you kind of
Not to name names.
Yeah. But as you get into those struggles, you can kind of say, okay, I got a month left and then it's the off season and I can kind of deep exhale and kind of relax for a little bit. Well, in business and in fatherhood and all that kind of stuff, there's no vacation time, right? There's no off season.
Yeah.
And so that has been probably the biggest thing that I've struggled with and still do to some extent. When you're in the thick of running a business and being a father and all those kind of things day in, day out, it'd be nice to have, hey, it's off season, you can relax for 3 months. Yeah. Hey, cool. I would look forward to that sometimes.
And I noticed on your resume you have a Bachelor of Science degree.
Yeah.
So you're very smart. You're very smart. Mindset. You when I'm just speaking to you, you seem like, have you always had a strong mindset? Because you seem very confident in your direction. The struggle wasn't as big as it is for other players. And if you are struggling and you are going through this, don't mean that means anything else, but your mindset seems very grounded. Have you worked on your personal development for your mental and emotional health in the past? Or do you just feel because of your routine and your scholastics, that discipline just, for you were lucky the transition wasn't as catastrophic as I have seen with some of my friends?
Yeah, I think for me, it's kind of something that's been a part of my life all the way along. Particularly in the sport of football, I was always pretty much, like 99% of the time, I was the smallest guy in the field. So for me, it was always like, every day is game day. You got to show up and be at your best every single day. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen.
So you were mentally prepared to prove yourself all the time.
Exactly. And so there, it's just, it's one of those things that's kind of always been in my mind. And also, like, I love competition and I hate failure. So those things combined,
mix, yes. What about, okay, so we see all the accomplishments, we see the impressive bio. Behind closed doors, what do you do for your mental and emotional health? Like the 6 main things that people can do: journaling, affirmations, visualizations, reading, exercise, meditation. Do you do any of those?
Exercise is my big one. Obviously, I train to some level almost every day, and that's huge for me. I feel that when I don't. I feel the stress and I feel all that kind of stuff when I don't get a chance to train. I'm getting better at the reading and meditation and kind of making that time. Again, my personality that doesn't lead well into that, just sitting and being quiet.
Talk to my husband. He's like, we're different. What works for you doesn't work for me. I'm trying to impose my ways on him, and we always laugh about it. And it's true. Everyone's different. It doesn't have to.
Yeah,
but
for sure. Yeah. And I think, obviously being around my family and my kids, and we just got a puppy, so all those things are kind of
puppy.
A golden doodle.
Oh, they're sweet.
Yeah.
My brother and sister have one.
So all those things, I do my best to kind of shut everything else off when I'm with them and be present and that kind of stuff. And that's, a big stress relief and a chance to.
So this is really neat to me. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
Did you, when you stopped, did you continue your fitness? Or did you take a period off?
No, obviously not to the same level, but yeah, I never really stopped completely. Yeah.
Guys, this is proof in the pudding. When we play competitive sports at a high level, your endorphins and serotonin are running rampant in your body. So you are primed for memory, concentration, focus, feel-good hormones. And then if you're on a team, you got the oxytocin coming through. Pat stayed, I love these conversations because they start to bubble up through the conversation, but he stayed physically active.
Yeah.
So what happens is when people transition and they have an abrupt stop, or you're injured and you can't play in your field of sport anymore, that's where the chemical imbalance happens, and it can promote anxiety and depression, all that stuff. So this is really interesting because your transition has been, which seemingly quite smooth, which great. I'm not looking for these depressing stories. I'm not looking to prove that. Sorry, I'm stepping on a piece of paper here. But there is a correlation, which is so amazing. And your exercise has been your foundation, and it has served you well.
100%. And I think, it's a big enough transition when you finish, mentally, socially, all that kind of stuff. So if you can keep the physical somewhat consistent, that's one thing that kind of keeps you in your element, keeps you feeling like yourself, right? If you've trained your whole life and you shut the whole thing down, well, now you really don't feel like yourself.
Did you ever, and this is personal to anyone, but I find sometimes, I went to a really fun school. Did you have any issues like in the limelight and then not being in the limelight?
No, not really. It was never, it was something I was comfortable with and I was okay with, but not necessarily something that I sought out. And I think being local and stuff like that, allowed me to still have an element of that.
Yep.
When I wanted it. I didn't have to do it all the time.
Yep.
I didn't have to do media every day anymore. But it was there. I could go to events and that kind of stuff and still have that. But it was never, like I said, it was never something like I'm doing this to be a star or to be famous or anything. It was always just to play the game.
Yeah, I love that. Any final remarks for athletes watching, whether they're in their sport now or transitioning, some little nuggets that you want to leave them with?
Yeah, I think it's important, when you're still playing, to develop interests outside of the sport and outside of the game. And I know that's hard for sure. Who
has time for that when you're training, right?
It's not always easy,
yeah,
100%.
It's so true, though. I believe in that.
But it'll actually make you play better as well, right? To take a bit of a break and not have that burnout effect where you're just constantly in the thing all the time, at least in the off season. And then that kind of leads into having something in your head, at least, that you can do post-career instead of everything finishing and now you're like, okay, what do? I have no idea what my interests are, what I like to do, who I like to be with. Because if you're just around other athletes and your teammates and stuff all the time, when that goes away, then you're feeling by yourself. So finding some kind of hobby or activity or business idea or something that you can work on in the off season is huge towards making that transition so much easier.
I love that. And a great way to get your ideas out of your head is grab a journal and start writing now as they come up. You don't have to have it figured out. But I love it. You were talking and I was looking at your shirt, Elite Performance Mindset and Lifestyle. Thank you so much for your time today. For those of you watching, I have put together a little guide. I will post it in the comments below, but it's a free link for downloading for transitioning to life after sports. And I do have one for how to support your competitive athletes, 5 ways to do that. So thank you so much, Pat.
My pleasure.
He's kicking off my Transitioning to Life After Sports series. Tony Greco will be here on Thursday, and I have a list of 30 athletes and growing, so wait for some amazing conversations coming your way. Know that if you are struggling, you are not going through this alone, and there is a community here to support you, and please reach out. So thank you for your time today, Pat. Thank you.
My pleasure. Good to see you.
And I hope everyone's having a wonderful day.
See ya.
Bye.